The rain tapped softly against the windows of the penthouse apartment as Evelyn Carter stood frozen in the dark hallway, her hand still gripping the crystal wine glass she had brought upstairs for her husband. Down below, laughter echoed from Daniel's office. Not the warm laugh he used to save for her. This one was sharper, colder, and then she heard the sentence that shattered 22 years of marriage. "She has no idea the papers are already drafted," Daniel said casually. "Once the transfer clears next week, I'll file for divorce and leave her with almost nothing." A woman laughed beside him. Evelyn's stomach twisted. "She really trusts you that much?" the woman asked. Daniel chuckled. "Evelyn still thinks I'm the man she married." The wine glass slipped from Evelyn's fingers and shattered across the marble floor. Silence. Footsteps moved downstairs. Panicked, Evelyn backed into the shadows just before Daniel opened the office door. "Did you hear something?" the woman whispered. "Probably the maid," Daniel muttered. Evelyn pressed herself against the wall, barely breathing as they returned inside. But something inside her had already changed forever. For 22 years, Evelyn had been the perfect wife. She had supported Daniel when he started his business from a tiny rented office with peeling paint and second-hand desks. She had worked double shifts as a nurse while he chased investors. She had mortgaged her late mother's house to save his company during the recession. And when the business became a billion-dollar empire, Daniel slowly became someone else. The loving husband who once brought her flowers every Friday disappeared behind tailored suits, luxury parties, and whispered phone calls. Still, Evelyn stayed, because loyalty mattered to her. Because marriage meant something. Because she believed love could survive success. Now she understood the truth. Daniel hadn't just stopped loving her. He had planned to destroy her. Quietly, Evelyn walked upstairs to their bedroom and closed the door. Her hands trembled as she sat on the edge of the bed. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not yet. On Daniel's nightstand sat the framed photo from their 20th anniversary trip to Italy. In the picture, he smiled while holding her close beneath the Venice sunset. Looking at it now felt like staring at strangers. Then another memory surfaced. 3 months earlier, Daniel had insisted they consolidate all accounts under joint management for tax efficiency. At the time, Evelyn signed the documents without question. Now she understood why. He was moving assets, preparing to leave her financially ruined before she even saw the divorce coming. A slow breath escaped her lips. If Daniel wanted war, he had underestimated the woman standing across from him. Evelyn wiped her eyes and walked calmly to the closet. At the back sat a small fireproof safe Daniel believed she didn't know about. But years ago, after he forgot the code during a vacation, she had memorized it while helping him open it. She entered the numbers carefully. The safe clicked open. Inside were passports, property deeds, investment documents, and a black leather folder labeled private. Evelyn opened it. Her heart pounded harder with every page. Offshore accounts, hidden transfers, a pending acquisition worth nearly $40 million. And most importantly, temporary holding accounts containing liquid cash waiting for transfer. Joint accounts, accessible by either spouse. Daniel planned to move the money after filing for divorce. But he hadn't done it yet. A strange calm settled over Evelyn. For the first time all night, she smiled. At 1:17 a.m., while Daniel slept beside his mistress downstairs in the guest suite after too much champagne, Evelyn sat alone in the kitchen with her laptop open. Every click felt unreal. Years of trust reduced to passwords and numbers. But Daniel had taught her one thing during his rise to power. Move first. She contacted the bank's overnight private client division. "This is Evelyn Carter," she said steadily. "I need to authorize immediate transfers from our joint holdings into secured accounts under my sole management." The representative hesitated. "For security purposes, ma'am, these are substantial amounts." "Yes," Evelyn replied calmly. "And I have full legal authorization." She answered every security question perfectly. The transfers began, one by one: checking accounts, investment liquidity reserves, emergency corporate holding funds tied to joint ownership. By 3:42 a.m., over 90% of accessible funds had legally moved into protected accounts Daniel could not touch without court approval. Evelyn leaned back slowly, not because she wanted revenge. Because survival demanded it. Then she made one final phone call. "Hello," a sleepy voice answered. "It's Evelyn," she whispered. Her old college friend, Margaret Hayes, immediately woke up. "Evelyn, what's wrong?" Margaret was now one of the most feared divorce attorneys in New York. "I think my husband is planning to leave me with nothing." A pause. Then Margaret's voice became ice cold. "Tell me everything." By sunrise, Evelyn had assembled copies of financial records, account histories, property ownership documents, and proof of suspicious transfers Daniel intended to hide during divorce proceedings. Margaret listened carefully. When Evelyn finally finished, her friend said quietly, "He's been planning this for months." "I know. And you moved the money first?" "Yes." Margaret exhaled slowly. "Good." At exactly 7:15 a.m., Daniel walked into the kitchen wearing silk pajamas and an arrogant smile. "Morning," he said casually, pouring coffee. Evelyn sat calmly at the table reading the newspaper. For a moment, she studied the man she once loved. The gray at his temples. The expensive watch. The confidence of someone certain he controlled everything. Then his phone rang. Daniel frowned while answering. "What do you mean the accounts are frozen?" Silence filled the kitchen. His face drained of color. "What transfers?" Evelyn slowly folded the newspaper. Daniel looked at her. For the first time in years, genuine fear appeared in his eyes. "You," he whispered. Evelyn met his stare calmly. "Yes." Daniel stormed toward her. "What did you do?" "I protected myself." "You stole my money." "No," Evelyn replied evenly. "I secured our money before you could steal it from me." His jaw tightened. "You went through my private documents." "You mean the divorce strategy hidden in your safe?" she asked quietly. "Or the offshore accounts?" Daniel froze. The silence confirmed everything. Evelyn stood slowly. "You should know something, Daniel," she said. "I heard your conversation last night." For once, he had no clever response. No manipulation, no charm, only panic. "You misunderstood. Don't insult me with lies." Daniel slammed his coffee mug onto the counter. "You have no idea how business works. And you have no idea how betrayal changes people." He stared at her in disbelief. This wasn't the quiet wife who spent years standing beside him at charity galas smiling politely while he ignored her. This woman was different, stronger, dangerous. "You can't keep those funds," Daniel snapped. Evelyn calmly slid an envelope across the counter. He opened it. Inside was a notice from Margaret Hayes, law firm, along with a temporary financial injunction request. Daniel's hands shook slightly as he read. "You hired Margaret Hayes," he muttered. "She was my maid of honor," Evelyn replied. For the first time, in 22 years, Daniel looked powerless. The weeks that followed became a public nightmare for Daniel Carter. The financial investigation uncovered hidden assets, undeclared transfers, and evidence of planned concealment during divorce proceedings. Business magazines that once praised him now questioned his ethics. Board members panicked. Investors demanded explanations. Meanwhile, Evelyn disappeared quietly from the spotlight. She rented a small waterfront home in Connecticut and spent mornings drinking coffee beside the ocean. For the first time in decades, her life felt peaceful. But healing came slowly. Some nights she still woke up remembering the sound of Daniel laughing with another woman downstairs while planning her destruction. Some wounds do not vanish quickly. One afternoon, Margaret visited her by the shore. "You know," her friend said gently, "most people in your position would have tried to destroy him completely." Evelyn looked out at the waves. "I loved him once. That man doesn't deserve your mercy." "Maybe not," Evelyn admitted softly. "But I deserve my peace." Margaret smiled faintly. That was Evelyn. Even after betrayal, she refused to become cruel. Months later, the divorce settlement finalized. Because of the evidence Evelyn secured early, the court awarded her a massive portion of shared assets. Daniel lost far more than money. His reputation collapsed. Several executives resigned. The younger woman vanished from his life once the scandals began. And the empire he built never fully recovered. But the greatest shock came 6 months later. Daniel appeared unexpectedly at Evelyn's Connecticut home. Older now, thinner, defeated. She opened the door cautiously. "What are you doing here?" He looked down for a moment before speaking. "I wanted to say I'm sorry." Evelyn studied him silently. The arrogance was gone. In its place stood a tired man carrying the ruins of his own choices. "You didn't just betray me, Daniel," she said quietly. "You erased everything we built together." Tears filled his eyes. "I know. You looked at the woman who stood beside you for 22 years and decided she deserved nothing." Daniel couldn't answer, because there was no defense. Finally he whispered, "I was stupid." "No," Evelyn replied softly. "You were selfish." The ocean breeze moved through the silence between them. Then Evelyn opened the door slightly wider. "Would you like some coffee?" Daniel looked surprised. "You'd still do that for me?" Evelyn gave a sad smile. "Kindness says more about me than it does about you." They sat on the porch overlooking the water as the evening sun melted into gold across the waves. No anger remained in Evelyn now. Only clarity. Sometimes the deepest revenge is surviving beautifully after someone tries to destroy you. And as Daniel sat silently holding the coffee cup with trembling hands, he finally understood the truth too late. The strongest person in their marriage had never been him. It had always been Evelyn.